We were not stone then, but light. It was not our place to interfere. Yet we chose to try and help mankind. And when we disobeyed the Creator, He punished us. We were encrusted by your world. Rock and mud shackled our fiery glow. Still we taught mankind all we knew of creation. With our help, they rose from the dust, became great and mighty. But then they turned our gifts to violence.
Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Hey, I am ready to see this atom smasher smashing.
There was a shooting today. Your dad needs me to process some evidence, which means that I don't know if we're going to be able to make it to Star Labs.
But seeing this thing turn on is like your dream. Your sad little nerdy dream. Besides, I canceled a date for this.
Hands off my fries. Unbelievable.
I am stress eating over my dissertation. We started selling cronuts at Jitters. I ate 2 today. If I don't graduate soon, I'm gonna be more muffin top than woman.
You look amazing.
What is so important about this particle accelerator anyway?
Harrison Wells' work in quantum theory is light years ahead of anything they're doing at CERN.
You're doing that thing where you're not speaking English.
Okay. Just imagine that dot is everything the human race has ever learned until this moment.
Does that include twerking?
That is everything we could learn from the particle accelerator. It's a whole new way of looking at physics. It will literally change the way that we think about everything.
You've got to get yourself a girlfriend.
That name doesn't matter, not anymore. It won't matter for many years. The only thing that really matters is who you are. Harrison Wells. What are you talking about? I don't understand. In the year 2020, you and your wife, Tess Morgan, successfully launched a particle accelerator that changed the course of history. I need it to happen a bit sooner if I'm going to get back. Much sooner.
Thank you. My name is Harrison Wells. Tonight, the future begins. The work my team and I will do here will change our understanding of physics. We'll bring about advancements in power, advancements in medicine, and trust me, that future will be here faster than you think.
Suddenly, there was a blinding light and the sky split open. A breach between my world and yours caused from the singularity. It pulled me in. You want to go home? You only have to do one thing.
Strange happening in the world of quantum computers, and nobody seems to be talking about it.
He would need a quantum computer, millions of processors. You're right.
Harrison believed it would open portals to other dimensions.
It was shown to open portals to other dimensions.
A quantum computer is the key to unlocking portals between worlds. I'm sorry, portals.
I want to show you something extremely interesting about quantum computers, and it's happening right now, Recently, there have been many advances in the world of quantum computers, and there are many companies who have operational models at this very moment. Companies you all know of, like Google, Honeywell, D-Wave, IBM, Microsoft, and many, many more. But what we are going to focus on today is some very strange comments made by the founder of D-Wave Quantum Computers. He basically says that through technology, through these quantum computer systems, we are now able to access information from another dimension. And not just one other dimension, many other dimensions. And we can even bring that back into our world. But it gets stranger than that even. He also describes making contact with entities who live in these dimensions. These entities are making contact with scientists as we speak, and are actually being invited into our world through the use of technology. Now, you might think I'm crazy, but it's not me who's saying this. And furthermore, these ideas have been around for thousands of years. It's even talked about in the Bible. The Bible describes portals in which entities are able to come in and out of our world.
How?
It's a portal.
It seems to say that the evil child is not Satan himself, but a portal to Satan.
But this Commander Crane, he said that this will help open a portal to another dimension?
A portal to that other world.
It's a portal.
In Genesis chapter 28 verse 12, Jacob has a vision of a portal into another world, in which he describes seeing angels ascending and descending to and from earth. Quote, he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Now, if God's holy angels are able to ascend and descend to earth through portals, doesn't it make sense that fallen angels and other entities can do the exact same thing? I think so. And this seems especially evident when you take the Tower of Babel situation into consideration, because I believe that the Tower of Babel is an ancient version of well, you guessed it, of a quantum computer. Let me explain. Using the technology that he had available to him at the time, Nimrod built a tower, which the Bible says actually reached into another dimension. Doing this, Nimrod had access to all the secrets of the universe, which no man should possess. The Bible even says after doing this, Nimrod started to transform into something else, something not human. It says he became a mighty man, which was translated from the original Hebrew, Gibor, which means giant, aka a Nephilim. Genesis 11 verse 4 says this, quote, come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens. Then in verse 5, the Lord himself shows up to see exactly what's going on, and he says this in verse 6, quote, nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Nothing they do will be impossible for them. That's the Lord God saying this, and he's talking about them using technology, the tower, to access other dimensions, the heavens. Basically, if they planned to build a building that reached into another dimension, it would be possible. Now, we all know what happens after that. Another thing I find extremely curious about this is if you look at what the Tower of Babel was supposed to look like and compare it to a quantum computer, well, what do you see? Do you think this is just a coincidence? They are literally building a technological portal into another dimension with this quantum computer. And when you combine this with the Tower of Babel, which was the ancient version of a quantum computer, it perfectly illustrates the occultist's favorite adage, as above, so below. Coincidence? You tell me. As above, so below. Coincidence? You tell me. Okay, with all that in mind, you won't believe what the founder of D-Wave Quantum Computers has to say about this.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. There are literally tens of thousands of some of the brightest people in the world today trying to build these machines and understand them. And I'm going to tell you why. In my last 15 years of working on this type of stuff, I found that scientists divide up into two categories of zealots about this field. The first half are people who are absolutely entranced by the physics of these things. This quote is from a respectable scientist, in fact, one of the founders of this field, that may look a little strange to you who don't follow theoretical physics, but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these that we have within, or almost within our grasp right now. So people from a physics background love this. They want to understand the world. They want to understand the universe, how it all works. There's another type of person who tends to come from the computer science side that's like, yeah, okay, that's all great. But there's a different thing going on here, which is just as exciting, if not more, and that these machines that supposedly can do this wild stuff, let's forget about how they work, if you could build one, could solve problems that you could never, ever solve with any computer of the sort that we built. If you took every single atom of silicon in the world and made the most sophisticated conventional Intel-style processor that you could build, there are problems we know of that I could write down on a sheet of paper that you could never, ever, ever solve with that thing, that you could with this kind of machine. So that's very exciting. Humans use tools to do things. If you give humans a new kind of tool that can do things that you couldn't otherwise do, imagine the possibilities. So you may think, well, this is all fine and dandy, but aren't these things in the realm of theory and speculation kind of in the same regime as other futuristic things you may have heard of which may be allowed by the laws of physics but aren't here yet? That's not true. There are, in fact, many of these machines deployed now in openly available research centers following the model that was used to introduce supercomputers to the world. They're too big and ornery and difficult to operate to put in your home, too expensive also, but you can give them to a place which will manage them as a shared resource that will offer that service to the world. And there are two of these now. One of them is at the University of Southern California. And this analogy with flight, I think, is an interesting one. So a horse can beat, or could beat, the initial flight of the Wright brothers' flight in speed. But a plane is not a faster horse. A plane is a different kind of machine. The plane takes advantage of another resource that nature gives us, this third dimension, in order to do something that matters to people better than you could do with any horse. It doesn't matter how fast you make a horse, it will never fly, at least the kinds of horses that we know about. So these types of computers now are being thought of in the same way. They're doing something completely different than what your computer does. And that thing is like flight. It gives these computers access to these new resources, maybe you could call them parallel universes, in order to do something that you couldn't otherwise do.
Now here is the same man a few years later talking about what's happening with AI, and notice the symbol on his shirt.
So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room, in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware, because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. Yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US, and underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
So there you have it, right from the horse's mouth. But what do you think about this? Am I wrong in my assessment? Am I connecting dots that don't exist? Or are they really trying to contact entities in the other dimensions?
Redirection. That is the basic working principle of the world's largest particle accelerator. In the most basic terms, a particle accelerator is a machine that accelerates particles. More specifically, it accelerates elementary particles, like protons and electrons, at extremely high speeds, almost 99.99% the speed of light. These particles are then smashed against a stationary target or against other particles traveling in the opposite direction. These collisions produce massive particles, such as the top quark or the Higgs boson, which last for only a fraction of a second. Then, almost immediately, these particles convert into smaller, lighter particles, which, in turn, decay almost instantly. These collisions not only help us understand the composition of the elementary particles in question, but also supplement our knowledge of our universe's origin immediately following the Big Bang. Particle accelerators can be broadly classified into two categories: linear accelerators, also called LINACs, and circular accelerators. A linear accelerator accelerates ions or subatomic particles to a very high speed using a strong electric field along a linear path, hence the name linear accelerators. A circular accelerator, in contrast, accelerates elementary particles along a circular path to finally smash into a target or other incoming particles from the opposite direction. The largest circular accelerator in the world is called the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, which is located at CERN near the French-Swiss border. The circumference of the accelerator is nearly 17 miles or 27 kilometers, greater than the length of Manhattan. Circular particle accelerators are sometimes also referred to as atom smashers, as they smash subatomic particles into each other. The basic working principle of all particle accelerators remains the same. They contain a particle source that provides elementary particles. Although a particle accelerator commonly accelerates protons or electrons, it can also accelerate other particles. The LHC, for example, can accelerate the nuclei of argon, xenon, or lead atoms. This beam of elementary particles travels inside a metal beam pipe, which maintains a vacuum inside. It is critical to ensure that the whole beam setup is devoid of air and dust particles, so that accelerated particles can travel unimpeded and achieve speeds close to the speed of light. There is special equipment placed around the accelerator that produces strong electric fields. It is these electric fields that allow the particle to achieve such high speeds. They switch from positive to negative at a given frequency, creating radio waves that push and accelerate particles. There are also numerous electromagnets placed along the length of the accelerator. Their primary job is to focus the beam of particles as they accelerate and keep them locked in a circular path within the metal beam. As the particle races extremely fast around the accelerator, it gains more and more energy with each turn. In the LHC, for example, accelerated protons attain the energy of 6.5 trillion electron volts. This is the highest magnitude of energy reached by the accelerator, and when protons carrying this much energy collide with other protons, the energy of those collisions is transformed into matter, following Einstein's energy-mass equivalence equation, which states that mass and energy are interchangeable, since matter is just a concentrated form of energy. This is why particles like the Higgs boson are produced by these collisions. Studying their properties provides us with insight into the composition of matter and the universe's origins. Contrary to popular belief, particle accelerators are not all highly complicated machines that only exist in huge laboratories or movies. A particle accelerator can be as small as a few inches across. In fact, the first accelerator ever built was less than 5 inches across. There are currently more than 30,000 particle accelerators in the world. Although they're often associated with particle research and understanding our universe's origins, accelerators are also used in medicinal sciences. Millions of patients around the world are diagnosed using medical appliances that are essentially particle accelerators. Linear accelerators can generate X-rays and high-energy electrons, which can be used in medical diagnostics and radiation therapy for cancer patients. Furthermore, accelerators are also used in ion implantation to manufacture semiconductors. The process is critical to introduce a specific type of ion at a desired depth to create semiconductors. Hundreds of industrial processes involve accelerators, ranging from manufacturing computer chips that power our computers to the sterilization of culinary processed food items that can be stored at room temperature for months.
It was not our place.